The storm raged over the city that night, wind howling like distant screams. Streetlights flickered across the cracked pavement of a forgotten neighborhood, illuminating puddles that shimmered like broken glass. A woman in a dark tactical coat moved silently through the rain. Her steps were measured, her eyes sharp, every motion betraying years of elite military training. Her name was Sergeant Maya Brooks, a former Special Forces operative who had left the battlefield behind, or at least tried to. But some wars never end. After retiring from service, Maya had returned home hoping for peace. Instead, she stumbled across a newspaper article about an unsolved crime, a cold case involving a missing teenager from her old community. The police had given up years ago, but something about it gnawed at her. The details didn't add up. Now standing in front of the abandoned house where the boy was last seen, Maya felt that familiar tension in her muscles, the same instinct that had saved her life countless times in combat. This wasn't just a missing persons case. Something deeper was buried here. Her flashlight cut through the darkness, landing on something faintly metallic beneath the floorboards. And when she pried it loose, what she found would shatter everything she thought she knew about the case, about her city, and even about her own past. Because this time, the enemy wasn't across the ocean. It was right here at home. The city didn't look the same anymore. It was once home, a patchwork of red brick buildings, narrow alleys, and late-night food stalls where laughter used to echo under neon lights. Now much of it stood silent. Windows were boarded up. The air smelled of exhaust and rain-soaked asphalt. For Maya Brooks, it felt like she had returned not to the place she grew up in, but to the ghost of it. Her boots splashed through puddles as she crossed the empty street toward a small, run-down apartment complex. Her duffel bag, olive green and worn from years of service, hung heavy on her shoulder. The only sound was the low rumble of thunder rolling through the clouds above. Maya had been out of the Special Forces for 6 months. Officially, she retired. Unofficially, she had been told to take time off after a classified mission went catastrophically wrong. Her unit had been ambushed in the desert. One wrong coordinate, one missed signal, and Staff Sergeant Daniel Hayes, her best friend, didn't make it home. That memory haunted her every night. The desert heat, the deafening sound of gunfire, and the silence that followed when command finally called the mission a containment failure. The military had taught her how to survive in any terrain, how to lead under pressure and how to fight without hesitation, but it had not taught her how to live with loss. She unlocked the door to her apartment, barely furnished, just a bed, a table, and a few framed photographs. One of them showed her and her old unit, grinning under a setting sun, faces smeared with dirt, arms thrown over each other's shoulders. She turned it face down on the table. The next morning, Maya found herself walking through her old neighborhood. Children played with makeshift soccer balls in cracked parking lots. Elderly men sat outside corner stores arguing about politics and sports. It felt both familiar and foreign. Her destination was the East Bridge Community Center, a place she remembered from her childhood. She'd volunteered there as a teenager, and now she returned hoping to give something back. To mentor young people, to keep her mind busy, maybe to find a sense of belonging again. The director, a kind woman named Mrs. Linton, recognized her instantly. "Maya Brooks," she exclaimed, arms outstretched. "Look at you. Last I heard, you were saving the world." "Trying to," Maya said with a small smile, shaking her hand. Mrs. Linton led her inside. The place was smaller than Maya remembered, but alive with energy. Kids laughing, basketballs bouncing, volunteers sorting supplies. On one of the corkboards near the entrance, something caught her eye. A faded missing persons poster. It showed a teenage boy, dark eyes, broad smile, maybe 16. The caption read, "Missing Caleb Turner. Last seen 3 years ago near Riverside Street. Any information, please contact authorities." Maya paused. Something about the picture tugged at her. "What happened to him?" she asked quietly. Mrs. Linton's face fell. "That's Caleb, good kid. Used to play here after school. His mama Denise still comes around sometimes helping out with the food drives." "The police ever find anything?" Mrs. Linton sighed. "They looked for a few weeks. Then they said it was gang-related and moved on. But Denise, she never gave up. Says her boy wasn't like that." Maya stared at the poster a moment longer. She had seen that same hollow look too many times before. the one families wore when the system decided their loved ones didn't matter enough. Later that day, she found Denise Turner at a folding table, stacking boxes of canned food. Her hands were calloused, her face worn but strong. When Maya introduced herself, Denise's eyes softened, though suspicion lingered. "I heard about your son," Maya began. "I used to serve in the military. I was wondering if you could tell me what happened." Denise hesitated. "Most folks stopped asking a long time ago." "I'm not most folks." They sat down at one of the tables. Denise explained that Caleb had gone out one night to meet a friend near an old factory by the river. He never came home. His phone was found in a trash bin miles away, and the police blamed gang violence despite no proof. "They said he must have been in the wrong crowd," Denise said bitterly. But Caleb wasn't like that. He had dreams. He wanted to join the Navy, maybe go to college. Maya listened carefully, jotting down details. "Did the police ever check that factory?" "They said they did," Denise replied, shaking her head. "But when I went there weeks later, I found his backpack behind the fence. His name stitched right on it. I showed them, but they said it wasn't enough evidence." Maya's jaw tightened. She had seen cover-ups before, too many times. Bureaucracy, corruption, indifference, it all smelled the same. When she left the center, she walked straight to the Riverside district. The factory was still there. A rusted skeleton of metal beams and broken windows, half swallowed by weeds. The wind carried the faint smell of oil and decay. She approached cautiously, scanning her surroundings. Every instinct told her to turn back, but curiosity had already evolved into something else. Purpose. As she ducked through a hole in the fence, her flashlight beam cut through the dust and shadows. The inside was littered with old machinery, tarps, and scattered debris. Her boots crunched over shards of glass as she moved deeper inside. Then she saw it. Footprints, small and half-faded, leading toward the back of the structure. She followed them to a wooden floor section that seemed slightly uneven. Her breath slowed. Years of Special Forces training kicked in. She crouched, examining the surface. Scratches, recent ones, lined the edges. Something had been moved. Using a metal rod from the ground, she pried up one of the boards. A faint metallic glint caught her light. It was a dog tag half buried in the dirt below. She brushed it off carefully and froze. "Turner, Caleb." Her pulse quickened. She turned it over. On the back, barely visible, were fresh fingerprints. Someone had handled it recently. Maya looked around, scanning the shadows. Her military instincts whispered danger. Someone else had been here, and not long ago. As thunder cracked outside, she pocketed the dog tag and backed toward the exit. The storm had grown fiercer, rain hammering the tin roof like gunfire. When she finally stepped outside, she noticed a dark SUV parked down the block, engine idling. She couldn't see the driver's face, but she felt the stare, cold, unblinking, watching her. Maya didn't move. Neither did the car. After a long, silent standoff, the SUV pulled away slowly, disappearing into the mist. Maya stood there, soaked to the bone. The dog tag clutched in her fist. Her instincts screamed one thing loud and clear. This wasn't a random disappearance. Someone didn't want this case reopened, and that meant she was getting closer to something dangerous, something worth killing for. The next morning, the rain had passed, but the city still looked bruised beneath a low gray sky. Maya sat at her small kitchen table, the dog tag lying before her. Turner, Caleb. The metal glinted faintly in the morning light. She'd spent half the night replaying every detail of her visit to the factory. The footprints, the fresh scratches on the floorboards, the SUV watching from a distance. Whoever had been there wanted something hidden, and they wanted her to stay away. But that only made her more determined. She pulled out her old field notebook, the same one she used during recon missions, and began mapping out everything she knew. The factory, the timeline, the inconsistencies in the report, and now, the physical evidence. One name appeared again and again in the police documents she'd requested through a contact in the department, Riverside Security Group, RSG. The firm had been operating around the same time Caleb went missing. Officially, they specialized in private infrastructure protection. But Maya knew the language. It was a front for paramilitary contracts, a place where ex-soldiers and mercenaries found work after leaving the service. And one name stood out among their leadership. Colonel Nathan Reeves, the same commanding officer who had once led Maya's unit. She stared at the name for a long moment. Reeves had always been ambitious, too ambitious. He'd chased contracts and influence, willing to bend rules to climb higher. If RSG was involved in something dirty, it wouldn't surprise her. But she needed proof. Maya visited the public records office requesting access to land ownership files for the Riverside factory. The clerk, a nervous man with glasses, looked hesitant when he saw the address. That property's sensitive, he said. Sensitive. Maya raised an eyebrow. You mean sealed? He swallowed. I can't give you those files without authorization. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. I'm authorized by the truth. Now either hand me those files or I'll file a Freedom of Information request with your supervisor's signature on it. It worked. A few minutes later, she was sitting at a back table, flipping through dusty folders. The documents confirmed what she suspected. The factory had been purchased through RSG's Shell Corporation 2 months before Caleb disappeared. Shortly after, the ownership was transferred again, this time to a company based offshore. A classic laundering trail. Her pulse quickened. Someone had used that building for something illicit. When she left the office, she noticed the same SUV from last night parked 2 blocks away. She didn't react. Instead, she walked calmly to a nearby cafe, sat near the window, and used the reflection to watch the vehicle. The SUV idled for a while, then drove off, so they were still watching her. Good, she thought. That meant she was on the right trail. That evening, Maya visited Detective Alvarez, an old friend from before she enlisted. He owed her. She'd saved his brother's life years ago during a riot near the border. Caleb Turner, she said, dropping the folder on his desk. You worked this case. Alvarez looked uneasy. Yeah, and it nearly cost me my badge. I pushed too hard. My captain told me to bury it. Why? He sighed. Because there was heat from higher up. People in suits came in, said it was gang-related, closed it fast. I knew it was bigger, but... He hesitated. You didn't hear this from me. There was military-grade ammo found near the scene. It disappeared from evidence the next day. Maya's eyes narrowed. Military-grade. You're sure? He nodded. Yeah, and get this, the serials were scrubbed. That's not street-level crime. That's organized. She leaned back, processing. Reeves, Alvarez frowned. Reeves, as in Colonel Reeves? Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to. Before she left, Alvarez gave her a flash drive. This is all I could keep off the books. But be careful, Maya. You're poking a hornet's nest. She gave a small smile. Good thing I've been stung before. That night, Maya plugged in the flash drive. The files included crime scene photos, security footage, and notes from the first responding officers. One clip made her stop cold. The camera was positioned near a streetlight across from the factory. The image was grainy but clear enough to show Caleb being pushed into a black van. The van had a small emblem on its rear door, an eagle clutching a sword. She zoomed in. Her stomach dropped. It was the RSG insignia. Her suspicions had just turned into certainty. The next few days were a blur of investigation and strategy. She tracked financial transfers, interviewed former RSG employees, and even broke into one of their local offices at midnight to clone a hard drive. What she found was worse than she imagined. Hidden within encrypted folders were invoices for human cargo, falsified under logistics reports, routed through abandoned warehouses across multiple states, each one linked to Caleb's timeline. Maya felt her chest tighten as she read. The boy hadn't been a random victim. He'd been caught in the gears of something much larger. A covert trafficking network disguised as security operations, and Reeves was right in the middle of it. One evening, while she was reviewing the files in her apartment, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. A voice spoke calmly on the other end. You've done enough, Sergeant Brooks. Her grip tightened. Who is this? Someone doing you a favor. Stop digging. Some truths aren't meant to be found. Then the line went dead. Maya exhaled slowly, setting the phone down. Fear wasn't new to her. It was an old familiar companion. She'd learned long ago that real courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward anyway. She loaded her handgun, checked her gear, and grabbed her jacket. If they wanted to silence her, they'd have to face her first. 2 nights later, Maya went back to the factory, this time fully equipped, flashlight, lockpicks, body camera, and a compact pistol holstered at her side. She needed irrefutable proof before she went public. As she moved through the darkened hallways, she found a hidden steel door behind a pile of crates. It led to a basement tunnel system, part of the old city drainage network. Her flashlight flickered over the walls. Fresh tire marks, food wrappers, recent footprints. Someone had been here very recently. At the far end of the tunnel, she found a makeshift holding area, now empty but littered with broken restraints and plastic cuffs. The walls were lined with soundproof panels. Her breath caught. This was where they'd kept people. As she turned to leave, her flashlight landed on something scratched into the wall. A single word: help. Maya froze, the word burning into her mind. For the first time in years, she felt her composure falter. She crouched, running her fingers over the letters carved desperately into the concrete. "This is it," she whispered. "This is what they tried to hide." She took photos, gathered samples, and packed everything into a small evidence bag. When she emerged from the tunnel, a voice echoed behind her. "Still breaking into restricted areas, Brooks?" Maya spun around, weapon raised. A man stepped from the shadows, broad-shouldered, sharp-featured, the silver insignia on his jacket gleaming under the moonlight. Colonel Nathan Reeves. Her heart pounded. The past had just caught up with her. The air inside the abandoned factory was still and heavy, thick with dust and the lingering smell of rust and oil. Maya's breath was steady, but every muscle in her body was coiled and alert. She kept her Glock leveled on the figure stepping out of the shadows, Colonel Nathan Reeves. He hadn't changed much since the last mission, still tall, broad-shouldered, eyes sharp as blades. But there was something darker about him now, something that went beyond the battlefield. "Put the weapon down, Sergeant," Reeves said, his tone calm but commanding, as if the years of rank still applied. "Not this time," Maya replied, her voice steady. "You've got 10 seconds to explain why your company's logo was on that van." Reeves smirked. "You're still the same, always asking the wrong questions." He took a slow step forward, unarmed, confident in his control. "This isn't what you think. You're meddling in something far above your clearance." "My clearance?" Maya's eyes narrowed. "A kid is dead, Reeves. Family's torn apart. You think that's classified?" Reeves exhaled sharply, almost annoyed. "You wouldn't understand. What we did, what we built, it was for stability, for control. You've seen what happens when chaos takes over. Someone has to keep order, even if it means getting their hands dirty." Maya felt a chill crawl up her spine. "So trafficking kids and covering it up is order to you?" His jaw tensed. "You always were too sentimental for this world." There it was, the same arrogance that had gotten good soldiers killed overseas. The same moral blindness dressed up as duty. Maya tightened her grip on the pistol. "You used to talk about honor, about service. What happened to that, man?" Reeves gave a hollow laugh. "Honor doesn't pay the bills, Sergeant. When the government turned its back on us, we made our own future. These people, our investors, needed results. I gave them that. By selling lives?" She shot back. He didn't answer. Instead, he gave her a look of pity. "You were always my best. You could have joined me. Instead, you're out here chasing ghosts." She took a step closer, her voice low and sharp. "No, I'm chasing the truth. And it's about to bury you." Reeves's expression shifted, the cold calm cracking for just a moment. Then he nodded slightly. "So be it." He moved faster than she expected, lunging to knock the weapon from her hands. The gun skidded across the floor, clattering into the shadows. Maya responded instinctively, military reflexes taking over. A strike to his throat, a kick to the ribs, a twist of his arm. He countered with brutal precision, matching her move for move. The fight was close quarters, brutal, silent except for grunts and the sound of boots scraping concrete. Years of shared training mirrored in every motion. Reeves swung hard, grazing her shoulder, but she ducked under and drove an elbow into his jaw. Blood sprayed across the dusty floor. "You were trained to protect," she hissed. "I was trained to win," he growled back. He shoved her into a pillar. The impact rattled her bones, but she stayed upright, using the momentum to knee him in the gut. He stumbled, gasping. For a moment, both paused, chests heaving, faces lit by the faint flicker of a broken fluorescent light. "You can't expose this, Maya," Reeves said, voice low and ragged. "You think the system will let you? You think the media will listen to a disgraced black veteran over the word of men who built this country's defense?" That hit a nerve, her eyes flared. "You don't get to use that excuse. I fought for this country when it turned its back on me. I bled for it when it forgot my name. But I never sold my soul. Reeves wiped the blood from his mouth. Then you're a fool. Maybe, she said. But I'm a fool who's going to end you. She lunged again, sweeping his leg and slamming him to the ground. Before he could recover, she pinned him, grabbing a metal rod from the floor and pressing it against his throat. Where are the files, Reeves? The full list, the buyers, the handlers, all of it. His smirk returned, faint and defiant. You think I'd keep that here? I think you're too arrogant not to. He laughed, coughing. You were always good at reading me. Maya's gaze darted toward his jacket pocket, a faint bulge beneath the fabric. She grabbed it, yanked out a small encrypted drive, and stepped back. Reeves growled, struggling to his knees. You have no idea what you've done. I know exactly what I've done, she said, sliding the drive into a pouch. Then she turned to leave. But before she could reach the exit, Reeves's voice stopped her. You think this makes you a hero? The moment you step out that door, they'll come for you. The same people who paid me will erase you like you never existed. Maya turned, eyes cold. Then they'll have to try. Outside, the wind howled through the broken windows, carrying the distant sound of approaching engines. Headlights cut through the dark. Reeves wasn't bluffing. 2 black SUVs pulled up, men in tactical gear fanning out, rifles raised. Maya ducked behind a wall, firing back with her recovered Glock. The bullets cracked against concrete, sparks flying. She moved with lethal precision. Every step an echo of her training, 2 shots cover, reposition, suppress. But there were too many. She sprinted toward the service tunnel, sliding through the narrow passage she'd found earlier. The echo of footsteps followed behind. One of the men shouted, "She's got the drive! Don't let her reach the surface!" Maya's breath came hard and fast. She reached a metal ladder and climbed, emerging through a maintenance hatch into the storm above. The night was alive with chaos. Rain, gunfire, and the roar of engines. She dove behind a car as bullets shattered glass around her. Then headlights. A lone pickup truck screeched to a halt. The driver leaned out. "Detective Alvarez, get in," he shouted. Maya sprinted, dove into the passenger seat, and the truck peeled away. Bullets whizzed past, one grazing her arm. She winced but kept the flash drive clutched tight. "Guess I was right," Alvarez muttered. "Hornet's nest," Maya exhaled. "You have no idea." They drove until the city lights faded, the road giving way to open fields. When they finally stopped, both sat in silence, soaked in rain and adrenaline. Alvarez glanced at her. "So what now?" Maya looked out the window, the distant skyline reflected in her eyes. "We go public. This isn't just corruption, it's treason, and I'm done keeping quiet." Hours later, in a small motel room on the city's edge, Maya sat before her laptop, connecting the encrypted drive. The files loaded slowly, but when they did, her heart nearly stopped. Dozens of documents, coded reports, payment logs, names of victims, buyers, and complicit officials, all connected through RSG. Reeves wasn't exaggerating. The network reached into political offices, private firms, even elements of law enforcement. She sent everything to multiple encrypted servers, with scheduled leaks in case she disappeared. When the upload completed, she closed the laptop and sat back, trembling not from fear but from relief. Outside, the storm was breaking. The city was about to wake up to a truth that would shake it to its core. The world woke to chaos. By sunrise, every major news network was ablaze with the story. Exposed. Private military firm behind national human trafficking ring. Leaked documents flooded the internet. Contracts, surveillance footage, even personal correspondences linking Riverside Security Group to senior officials and corporations. The name Colonel Nathan Reeves topped every headline. The information had come from an anonymous source, but those who knew Maya Brooks recognized her signature. Precise, methodical, and impossible to ignore. Maya watched the broadcast from a small motel room miles outside the city. Her arm was bandaged, her eyes heavy from sleepless nights, but there was a quiet fire behind them. On the screen, the anchor was reading the words she had risked her life to reveal. "Multiple arrests have been made," the anchor said. "Authorities confirm that evidence was obtained from an encrypted drive exposing years of corruption and organized trafficking. Sources claim a former military operative was responsible for bringing the truth to light." Maya muted the television. She didn't need to hear the rest. The mission was complete. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to breathe. A knock on the door broke the silence. She reached for her weapon, instinct, but relaxed when she heard a familiar voice. "It's Alvarez." He stepped inside, drenched from rain, his face pale with exhaustion. "You did it," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "It's everywhere. Reeves, his investors, even 2 senators, gone. You've just blown open the biggest federal scandal in a decade." Maya nodded. "It was never about fame. It was about Caleb, and every kid who never made it home." Alvarez handed her a file. "There's something you should see. They recovered remains near that factory. Caleb Turner's DNA confirmed. The mother's being notified." Maya closed her eyes. A weight lifted, but another settled in its place. A deep ache that words couldn't soothe. "He didn't die for nothing," she whispered. Alvarez hesitated. "You should know there's a warrant out for Reeves. They raided his estate this morning, but he's gone, vanished." Her eyes sharpened. "He won't get far. Are you sure you want to keep going after him? You've done enough." Maya looked out the window at the gray horizon. Not until he answers for every life he destroyed. 2 days later, she found him. An informant from her old unit tipped her off. Reeves was hiding in a remote airfield outside the state, trying to flee under a false identity. Maya drove through the night, rain pouring against her windshield, memories of her fallen comrades flashing in her mind. She remembered the promises they'd made, the honor they once swore to protect, and how Reeves had betrayed it all. When she reached the airfield, dawn was just breaking. The sky was painted in bruised purples and golds. A small jet waited on the runway. Reeves was already boarding. Maya stepped out of the car, gun drawn, her voice echoing across the tarmac. "It's over, Colonel." He froze halfway up the steps. Slowly he turned, rain running down his face. "You should have stayed out of this, Brooks." "I tried that once," she said. "Didn't work." Reeves smirked faintly, lowering his bag. "You can't stop what's already been set in motion. You think exposing me fixes anything? There will always be another operation, another buyer. You're fighting shadows. Then I'll keep fighting until the light burns them out." The jet engines whirred. Reeves took a step forward, defiance in his eyes. "You're no hero, Maya. You're just a soldier who forgot how the world really works." "Maybe," she said quietly. "But at least I remember what we were supposed to fight for." He reached for his sidearm, but Maya was faster. One shot rang out. Reeves staggered back, falling to the wet ground, clutching his leg. "Consider that justice served," she said coldly. As police sirens wailed in the distance, Maya lowered her weapon. She didn't need to finish him. The truth had already done that. Weeks passed. The scandal reshaped the nation's understanding of corruption and accountability. Trials began. Testimonies poured in. Maya was called to testify before a congressional committee, though her identity had already been leaked to the public. When she walked into the courtroom, cameras flashed and whispers filled the air. Some called her a traitor, others a hero. She stood tall before the panel, the same quiet confidence she carried into every mission still radiating from her presence. "Miss Brooks," the senator began, "why did you risk everything, your safety, your reputation, to expose this?" Maya met his gaze. "Because silence is complicity, and justice doesn't wait for permission." The room fell silent. Later that night, she visited Caleb Turner's mother, Mrs. Turner, at her small home near the city's edge. The woman opened the door, her eyes swollen from days of tears, but when she saw Maya, she smiled weakly. "You're the one who found him," she said softly. Maya nodded, handing over a small box. Inside was Caleb's dog tag and a folded flag. "He wasn't forgotten, ma'am, and he never will be." Mrs. Turner's hands trembled as she held the tag close to her chest. "You brought him home?" Maya's voice broke just slightly. That's all that mattered. The two women embraced in silence, the weight of years of pain and justice finally finding balance in the stillness of that moment. Months later, Maya founded the Sentinel Project, a nonprofit dedicated to helping veterans transition to civilian life and investigating missing persons cases ignored by the system. The initiative gained national attention, funded by donations from people inspired by her story. She trained ex-soldiers, detectives, and volunteers to use their skills for truth instead of war. On the wall of the new office hung a single framed photo, Caleb's face, smiling beside the words, "For those the world forgot." Every morning, Maya stood before it before beginning her day. It reminded her that even the smallest truth could start a revolution. One evening, she visited the military cemetery, the wind cool and soft across the fields of white markers. She stopped at one, Sergeant Henry Cole, her fallen teammate. She knelt, placing a medal and a folded note beside the stone. "We did it, Henry. It's done." The setting sun painted the sky in shades of amber and crimson. For the first time since leaving the service, Maya smiled without the shadow of guilt or loss. She turned, walking back toward her car, her figure silhouetted against the fading light. As she drove away, the radio crackled with a reporter's voice. Sources confirm that former Colonel Nathan Reeves has been sentenced to life in federal prison. The whistleblower, identified as ex-Special Forces operative Maya Brooks, has been nominated for the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her courage and service to justice. Maya turned off the radio, a quiet tear sliding down her cheek. She didn't need medals. Justice was enough. A year later, during a memorial ceremony for veterans, a reporter asked her what kept her going through it all. Maya paused, looking out at the gathered crowd. Families, soldiers, children holding candles. "What kept me going?" she said softly. "The truth. And the belief that even one person can make a difference if they refuse to look away." The audience rose in applause, the sound echoing beneath the evening sky. As Maya walked off stage, she felt peace for the first time in her life. The battlefield was behind her, but her mission for justice had just begun.